Awesome. Okay, here's one more. Let me get Carissa in. Great. Okay, I'll get started and I'll go ahead and keep letting people come in as they come along. I always assume everybody is Zoom savvy, but in case you are not, Zoom also has a chat feature. And Darren just kind of like waved hello in the little chat room. So at the bottom of your screen, there's a little window that says chat. And if you ever have a question like midway through, you're welcome to type it into the chat box. And then that way Darren can kind of either answer the question for you, or he can prompt me to answer the question, but things keep flowing. So that's how Zoom works if this happens to be your first Zoom call. So welcome you guys to our Prospective Adopter Zoom session. My name is Dee. I started Magic City K9 about 5 years ago, about 5 years ago. And I want to start off tonight's call just kind of giving you a little bit of background, kind of why the organization started, a little bit about myself and my other volunteers that helped me. And then after we get through the kind of like background and process portion of our meeting, then I will go ahead and dive into the actual dogs. And at that point, you guys will be able to ask me any questions you have about the actual dogs that you're interested in. And then what we typically do after the call is, after we've gotten to jive with you guys for a good 90 minutes, we'll go back to all of our applications, kind of relook at everything, make sure we're really comfortable with any matches that might happen tonight. And then we'll follow up with you by text message, which you're all familiar with, the system that we use, so that we can get you guys matched with dogs. So welcome everybody. Happy to see your faces. Oh, another thing that you can do which is really helpful for me. If there's a dog that like is your number one pick based on the pictures you've seen, if you know how to rename yourself on Zoom, see how my name says D at Magic City K9? You could actually change your name to Charlie Eagle -Ben, right? So that would let me know just visually when I'm looking at all of you in the gallery, like how many people I have for each dog. And it's really easy for me to make sure that I'm going to show you videos tonight of those specific animals that you're most interested in. So that's really helpful for me.
Okay. Got it.
Awesome. All right. So again, my name is Dee. I am a certified professional dog trainer and behavior professional by trade. I've just entered into my 20th year of professional dog training. So that is a big accomplishment for me. And I'm very lucky that I was able to successfully build a very successful dog training company here in South Florida, which has completely flourished and thrived. My people, my employees, they don't even need me. They don't even know who I am anymore, which is fantastic, which means that I get to spend all of my time working on my passion project, which is Magic City K9. So Magic City K9 is a nonprofit organization. We're a registered 501c3, and it's run by myself, kind of as the head trainer of the organization, along with our trainer, Elise, who I don't believe is going to join us on tonight's call, but she also helps with the actual training of the inmates at our institutions, which I'll tell you more about. And then I've got some lovely ladies and the wonderful Darren, who help us on the back end of Magic City K9 to make it seem like it's really easy keeping up with everybody. So to give you an idea, 5 years, into the organization, I'm very, very thankful that we seem to have a really steady flow of applicants. So even though there's only, let's say 10 or 12 of you that are on the call tonight, at any given time, I've got about 60 applicants that are active in my pipeline waiting for a dog from me. And so the call is recorded tonight so that not only you guys can rewatch it, but that other people can go on our YouTube channel and learn about the dogs and then get matched up. So as a professional dog trainer, you can imagine that in my career, I have seen a lot of mismatches happen. And a lot of times people call a professional dog trainer, and we're not cheap, not the good ones at least, because they go to the shelter, which is phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. I wish everyone would make adoption their first option, right? That they go to the shelter and they pick out a dog based on looks. Usually this one's fluffy. This one's a certain weight. I like the size of this one. I like that it's female, whatever it is, right? And although I completely appreciate the preference, because I too, as a human, have my preference on what kind of dog I like to snuggle with in my bed, right? I'm a border collie person through and through, but also love a good pit bull, as you'll see. I love my pitties. The most important part when you adopt a dog, right, is that you are looking at temperament. And that is not something that you can inherently see when you just walk into a shelter and you meet a dog for 5 or 10 minutes on the adoption floor. Now, are there a tremendous amount of adoptions that are successful because people go to the shelter and get a dog? Absolutely there is. Absolutely there is, right? But there's also a percentage of people who end up having to hire a professional like me because they picked a dog on looks, totally ignoring the fact that temperament mattered. It mattered that that dog seemed really interested in movement. It mattered that that dog sort of like looked at your left hand as you touched its back end. Like all the little things that a professional like myself would easily be able to identify as red flags during an assessment, your average pet owner just is going to miss it when they go to see dogs. And so I've spent a lot of my career trying to help pet owners manage the dog that they mismatched themselves with. And so along the way in my career, I started offering, and not a lot of people take advantage of it, but some clients have. I started offering like a matchmaking service where I can actually go with you to the shelter and pick out a dog with you. And so you'd hire me to do a private lesson with you, the same way you'd hopefully hire any trainer. And we'll be like, well, based on your needs, I wouldn't pick this one, or yes, you should really consider this one, or whatever the case is. So I've done that for a number of years. And I got my start in doing prison dog programs, which, as I'm sure you realize, is a very unique niche as a dog trainer. I got my start in prison dog programs actually working for another nonprofit organization here in South Florida. And I did that for a number of years, but my heart really is with shelter dogs. And so in 2014, that's when I started working with the shelter dog population with Miami-Dade Corrections. That was a county program. And I ran that program successfully from 2014 all the way through 2020 when the pandemic closed it down. And that one hasn't restarted. But in 2017, I decided to go big or go home. And that's when I started Magic City K9. So Dee Holt, and my team of volunteers, we are wholeheartedly responsible for the 24 to 25 dogs that are always in our care. I personally, along with my friend Tibor, who's a trainer friend of mine up in Palm Beach County, we personally select these dogs from the shelter. And the criteria that we're looking for when we select dogs for our program is that, number one, I want them to come solicit attention from people. Like for this particular program and what I'm trying to accomplish with Magic City K9, I'm not going to go into a play yard and pick a dog that doesn't want to engage with me, because it's going to be very difficult for that dog to engage with you when you adopt the dog, right? So I'm already looking for dogs that I think are very, very social, very affable. They want to be around people. And then the other big criteria is that they 100% have to be able to play in an off-leash play group. That is one of the big criteria, because dog reactivity is a huge issue and a huge problem and a huge challenge for a lot of pet owners out there. So if I can already select dogs that I know are very dog friendly and dog social, that mitigates that problem for my adopters. Now, that's not to say that all of the dogs in Magic City K9 actually end up being park appropriate, because what sometimes happens is that dogs can be a little not themselves or shut down in the shelter. And so although they're out in a play group, seemingly tolerating and interacting with all the other dogs, when finally given the choice to interact with dogs in a more intimate setting, they actually choose that they don't want to interact. And I'll tell you about that if I have any dogs that meet that criteria. But initially, they all passed the initial test of being dog friendly, dog social. So none of my dogs are dog aggressive. It would be impossible. They live at the prison with 11 other dogs every single day, because I have 12 dogs at one prison and 13 dogs at another prison. So all of my dogs are dog social, dog neutral, dog appropriate. But I do have some dogs that 100% love to play. And so when you hear me say, this is a dog.
What are you doing still with food in your mouth?
Whoever's talking, if you don't mind muting yourself, I would love you forever. Thank you. So if you hear me say this is a dog park dog, what I mean is you can go into a dog park. Okay. And if I say this is not a dog park dog, what that means is that he probably will enjoy having dog friends, but they have to be selected to match the right temperament. Okay. But all of my dogs are dog social. And when they're at the shelter, I try my best to get my hands on them, touch them, it's really, really useful information to me to see them interacting in the play group, because I can see who's a bit more submissive, who's a bit more dominant, a bit more high energy, a bit more low energy. And then, as you can imagine, once they settle into the routine at the prison, after a couple of weeks, now we're really starting to get to know the temperament of those animals. So our program, how we've decided to run it, actually starting in this cycle moving forward in an effort to save more shelter dogs, we're running our program in 8-week cycles, which means the dogs basically move into the institution. They have about a week to kind of just like settle in, bond with their trainer, take it easy, get used to the environment, which you can imagine can be very overwhelming. It's loud. There's a lot of men there, very, very busy, not a lot of downtime. So some of the dogs do struggle initially going into the environment, but I have very few dogs that can't then be successful in that environment. Like it would be very rare I'd have to pull a dog out. And then after about the 3-week mark, which is actually where we are right now, it's been about 3.5 weeks since these dogs have been in the program. I'll go in. I actually did my assessments yesterday and today, so it's all fresh on my mind for you guys. We go in and we do an assessment for our first benchmark, which is called K9 Good Citizen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you really quick. Let me just share my screen. I apologize if I have anything weird on my desktop. I don't think there's anything there. I'm just going to pull up for you, if I can find Safari. Why am I blind tonight? It got taken off my menu. Okay, here we go. I just want to show you real quick what the criteria are for K9 Good Citizen. If for those of you that aren't familiar with how the American Kennel Club structures their essentially tiers of obedience, right? So let's see, AKC K9 Good Citizen. I'll just show you the criteria here. Awesome. And then maybe one day I'll be sophisticated enough to have this already ready in the slideshow presentation, but we're not quite yet there. It's probably going to take me at least another year to be that organized. Okay. Here we go. So CGC is run by an evaluator. I am a certified evaluator and many of my trainers are. And so I kind of strategically this first 3 weeks have stayed away from my dogs at the prison because I'm still a stranger to them. Like they met me at the shelter, but they were probably so distracted by all the other dogs there. They don't really remember me. So today I really got to go in and meet them in their opinion. I got to meet them for the first time yesterday and today. So the first thing on the CGC test is called accepting a friendly stranger. That means I have to be able to walk up to that inmate and that dog and shake that inmate's hand, and the dog cannot show any resentment towards me. He can't be aggressive towards me. He can't be shy towards me. And I don't want him violating my space. So he can't jump all over me either. Then sitting politely for petting means that I need to be able to walk up to that team and say, can I pet your dog? And then the dog allows me to pet him. He's happy to meet me. And again, no jumping on me, no mouthing me, none of that. Appearance and grooming, I have to be able to touch the dog's ears, touch their mouth, touch their tail, touch their legs. The guys have to be able to demonstrate with their dogs that they can have good control of that dog while they're out walking on a leash, walking through a crowd. They have to be able to sit down and stay in place, come when they're called to about 20 feet away. So the guys will drop the leash and then recall the dogs to them. They have to be free of aggression towards other dogs in passing. They have to not be, again, resentful, shy, or aggressive to normal distractions like dogs around, people around, me suddenly moving a chair, stuff like that. And then one thing that's on the CGC test, it's called supervised separation. We don't really formally test for supervised separation at the prison because it's hard to do, but all of my dogs pass that item because every day they have to be put into their kennel when the guys go to eat. And we know very quickly which dogs are either barking their head off, anxious, distraught that the handler has left, and which dogs are super chill. And that's basically what that test item is demonstrating, that you could essentially hand the leash to someone else and the dog's not going to totally freak out that the handler has left. So we do that first benchmark at about the 3-week mark. We have probably today at the main unit, all of my dogs pass CGC to give you an idea of where we are in the program. So I have 13 dogs. Yeah, all 13 dogs right now at the main unit have just passed their CGC as of today. So that's awesome. All of my dogs at reentry, I think I had about half of them pass CGC yesterday. So probably in another week or so, they'll keep tightening up some of the harder items like sitting politely for petting, because that's a hard one. All the dogs will pass everything else, but then they'll be so excited to like say hi to a stranger. So we'll give them another week to do that. Now, after they finish their CGC benchmark, in another 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to test them for CGC advanced, which then adds a whole nother layer on top of the basic skills, which is, for example, like the guys are going to have to walk their dogs up to the canteen, which is like it's like the window where you can get like your food and your snacks and stuff at the prison. So they're going to have to demonstrate that they can like heel nicely with their dog under control up to the canteen, put their dog in a downstay while they order something from the window. Okay. And what we're simulating is, can this dog be polite now out in public? Can he wait at thresholds? Can he walk through the compound with all the other inmates there? So the CGC advanced exam adds a whole nother layer of distraction on top of the foundations. And then by the time we get closer to week 8 of the program, I ask my guys finally to just do some cute stuff. And I want them to be able to show me that they truly understand how to teach dogs using positive reinforcement training and clicker training by teaching their dogs 5 different tricks per the AKC's novice trick dog title. So to wrap up the process portion, all of my dogs, by the time they graduate from our 8-week course, are going to pass their CGC ready. So if you guys adopt my dogs and then find a CGC evaluator out in public, out in the real world, out in public, you'll be able to immediately pretty much test with that animal if you want your certificate from the AKC, which is super awesome. They're all going to be able to pass CGCA, and they're going to be able to get their novice trick dog title. So I would say that's pretty impressive for 8 weeks of training. But keep in mind that my guys spend all day with the dogs. The dogs sleep next to them, go with them where they go. So there's never a moment, aside from when the guys go to eat in the chow hall, that these dogs are away from them. And the program's designed like that because, again, they are incarcerated and they've got nothing but time. So they are the perfect dog trainers. But it also gives us the opportunity to really know the dogs. Okay. So as a professional, I see the dogs 1 time a week for this 8-week period. Okay. But no one knows the dogs better than my guys. So I have them take a lot of notes. And if there's any questions that I can't answer for you tonight, I'll just ask them tomorrow and then I can text you the answer because they know their dogs incredibly well. And that is the benefit of adopting from us, because when you decide after a call like this that you want to get a dog from us, you're basically saying 2 things when you decide, yes, D and team, I want to move forward and I want to adopt a Magic City K9. You're saying, I love the mission, I love the cause, so I'm happy to give my donation because no matter what, at the end of the day, I support the cause. That's number 1, okay? Because our program is bigger than just the dogs we adopt out. A lot of our guys go on to stay in this industry and become successful dog trainers. And to me, that's just like, that is the main purpose, because a lot of these guys, honestly, they're going to come out, they're going to be judged. Some of them have been incarcerated for 20 years and they're not going to be able to find a job. I have one of my guys that just got out, and because his probation terms don't allow him to drive a car in the first year he's released because of his charges, he's not able to do dog training like in people's homes because he can't freaking get there. So that's really frustrating. And he's already been rejected from like 5 or 6 jobs in the last 2 weeks because of his felony charge. And he's a really good, kind kid. Like, I mean, he's what, like just 30 now? And he deserves a chance, you know? So if I can give my guys this skill and they can become small business owners themselves and help themselves out, not having to be shut down when they get out, to me, that's the number 1 reason why I run this program. And so it's also really important to me that when you decide you're going to adopt a dog from my organization, that you're comfortable corresponding with those inmates while they're incarcerated. It's very powerful and very meaningful to them to get to talk to you guys as you adopt the dogs, because as you can imagine, once the dogs leave the institution, they're always going to wonder what happened to their dog, right? And so we utilize a system that Florida Department of Corrections already uses so that you can send secure email messages back and forth with your trainer. And so although, of course, all the dogs follow a standardized command list, which you'll be provided upon adoption, what really benefits adopters is for you guys to like reach out and get to know your trainers and start emailing back and forth, because again, they know those dogs like so well. And one example I really like to use is I had a dog, his name is Face, like how beautiful is your face? And that's why we called him Face, like, oh, look at his face. He got adopted out. And the adopter emailed, his name is Sean Culver, the inmate. She emailed Culver and she said, I forgot what it was, something like, I just cannot get this dog to stop like staring at me. And he like drools when I'm eating. Like, any advice? Like, it was just something silly like that. And he said, all you have to do, and I don't have this information, Sean had it, right? So Sean emails back and he says, all you have to do is be very firm. You have to look him in the eye and say, face, that's enough. And he will go lay down, And she said that and emailed him back and was like, I cannot believe that dog was like, all right, and just like left and went to go lay down. But like, how would I know that? I don't live with the dog every single day. So like little nuances like that, definitely want my adopters engaging with their trainers. And I don't expect you to do that forever. That's not to say some adopters don't love emailing with their new pen pal every week, because some really do. And I love that. But I at least expect, like, that's my hope and my expectation, that you would definitely reach out after you commit to a dog to let my inmates know, hey, like, I'm so excited. This is the dog I'm adopting. Can you start giving me some advice? I can get ready to bring the dog home. And then you reach out for a couple weeks after that, just so that they know the dog's okay and you have all your questions answered, because that's really important to them. So essentially, after my dogs have passed their first benchmark, so let's just use the dogs in main unit right now for an example, because they've all passed their first benchmark. They are eligible to go out for a quick home trial if we feel like that's necessary. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's say you have a cat. I don't have a cat at the prison. How would I know if the dog is going to be great with cats? Now, as a professional, I feel like I have a pretty good read on who has prey drive and who doesn't have prey drive, but sometimes dogs surprise you. And even the most chill dog will chase a cat. So if you have small pets in the home, another dog in the home, a cat in the home, or small children, I'm probably going to ask you to take my dog for a quick weekend home trial, just to make sure that there's no deal breakers there. All my other dogs that are going to be placed into homes where they're going to be the only dog, you don't need to do a home trial. Like, I am very confident that you'll be very happy with the dog I place you with, and we're very successful at doing it, that you don't need to do a home trial. Now, can you still do one? Sure. But until you pay the adoption fee and secure that dog, he's still available. So if you fall in love with the dog tonight, and that's definitely the one you want, then the next step is get with us offline, like via our texting software. Text us, say, yes, I definitely want Boone. This is the one I want. Let's say we approve you for Boone. Then the next step would be that you pay the adoption fee. And at that point, he's yours. He's on reserve. No one else can have that dog. Now, some people ask me, well, what if graduation day comes and I pick up my dog at the institution and for some reason it just still doesn't work out? Well, two things happen. Number one, I always leave every dog space open for at least 1 week after they leave the institution, just in case they need to be returned for whatever reason, okay? And we do have adopters that occasionally do this. And this is another benefit of working with my organization. It is not a failure on your part if for some reason the dog that you were so sure about and you were so in love with ends up not being the dog for you. Because guess what? You can just pick a different one and I still love you, because I already picked you as an adopter. If I approved you to adopt my dog, you didn't hurt my feelings by bringing Boone back. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, my goal is to get my dogs adopted. So if that ends up not being the ideal dog for some reason, but again, we're very good at matches, so that is more the exception than the norm, then you would go ahead and return that dog to us, and then you get a dog from the next cycle. So I do have adopters that do that. I also have adopters that I think feel like they failed in some way, or they feel really bad about it, and then they like ghost me. And you know what I say to that? Thanks for your donation. Have a nice day. Because there's not a refund. So once you pay that fee and you are sure that you're going to adopt a dog from us, you're stuck with me. You're welcome. You will adopt a dog from me. And if you decide you don't want to for some reason, then that goes back to rule number one, which is first and foremost, you have to really want to support this cause, because you're not making a donation for a trained dog. You are making a donation to support the mission. And the mission is to help these incarcerated men feel empowered, gain new skill sets, hopefully make this a career for themselves. And the icing on the cake is that we produce really well-trained dogs that then you guys can adopt and love forever. Oh, and here comes Patty. Yay. All right, cool. Here comes Patty into the room. Awesome. Okay, so before I move in now to the actual dogs, does anyone have any questions about the actual process? Go for it. You're welcome to just shout it out and I'll address it for you.
Clear choice dental implants may be.
Nobody? I was that effective? Okay, if you think about it, then just you can just holler.
It's the question, D.
Yeah.
Do the inmates over their time at the prison, do they have multiple dogs that they've trained, or is it one and then you're done with the program?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay. So Lee asked, and sorry, if that Lee's background noise or someone else's background?
Not mine.
Oh, it's not yours. Okay. Cool. So Lee asked, do they train one dog and then they're done with the program? So typically my guys that are at the re-entry center, because we have two prisons. There's one that's called re-entry. And for those of you who aren't prison savvy, let me give you a quick lesson in jail versus prison. If you get arrested, you go to jail. Okay. You don't go to prison, you go to jail, and you're in jail until you're either bailed out, released, your name is cleared, or you're sentenced to however many years in prison. So once you are sentenced, if your sentence is longer than 364 days, you go to prison. If your sentence is less than 364 days, you probably stay in jail, because by that point, you've probably already been in jail several months and you're almost done anyway, right? While you were waiting for the system to kick you out or whatever. So in prisons, regardless of how long you're incarcerated, at some point you will be within 3 years of your release, right? So whether you were incarcerated 25 years for murder or, I don't know, 14 years, 7 years for DUI manslaughter, who knows? At some point you're within 3 years of your release. That's when, if you are really good and you have no disciplinary actions against you and you've done well in the system, you may be lucky enough to go into a re-entry center. It's still prison, but the re-entry center has a lot more programming to help you re-enter society, right? That's why it's called re-entry. So one of the prisons I work with is re-entry. So all of the guys that come into my program are in their last 3 years. So some of my guys will be with me for those 3 years. Some of my guys will only be with me for 1 year. And if they're with me for 1 year, then they're going to train what, like maybe 6 dogs in that time, 5 or 6 dogs in that time. But I also have guys at the main unit next door at Everglades Correctional Institute that have a life sentence. And if they've already been in my program for 5 years, you do the math. They are very good dog trainers at this point, right? So some of my best trained dogs come out of that institution because I've got really, really experienced trainers. And that's another thing to keep in mind. Even though all the dogs are going to hit the benchmarks, we definitely have trainers that are like phenomenal, stellar, like, wow, like just blow you out of the water with their skill set. And I was blown away today. You're going to see the videos. Like, I cannot believe what some of my long timers have done with their dogs in 3 weeks. I'm like, do you want your dog to go home this weekend? Because this is incredible. Like, you still have 5 weeks to go and your dog is like done. It's like done already. So, yeah, some of them they will stay in my program, multiple dogs, multiple years, and others will just stay with me a year. So that was a good question.
Gotcha. And the dogs that you just saw, are they at the reentry center or are they at the prison?
I saw the dogs at reentry yesterday and I saw the dogs at main unit today. And I have video, both days for this call tonight. So you get to see everybody, which is really exciting.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions about program or process before I get to the doggies? Nope. Phenomenal. Okay, cool. All right. And so for those of you that may have hopped in later, what I had asked is if you know how to rename yourself on Zoom, you might notice that some of the people, if you're in gallery view, they have their name and then like a little dash and then the dog they're interested in. That really helps me just kind of see like who they're most interested in. Hi, Patty, my favorite. Hey, girl. Joe and I were talking about you today as we were hugging Desmond. I know, so cute. Okay, cool. So let me just take a look here. I'm going to pull up for you guys first the videos from the main unit that I took today. And just keep in mind, these are not edited. This is just raw footage. So if I say something weird in the video, I apologize, but it's just to give you an idea of what the dogs look like in motion. So you can actually get a feel for how big they are, what their body shape is like, how they move. I have so many great dogs this class, and I probably say that every class, but I genuinely feel like in this group, I've got a lot of like medium energy, just like really sweet, friendly dogs that would do great in homes with kids. And I can't always say that about all of my groups because I am myself have a 5-year-old. I always have kids in and out of my home. So as a mom, I'm very sensitive to like, if I wouldn't feel comfortable bringing that dog to my house, I am certainly not sending it to your house. So I know sometimes people are like, oh, but that's really the dog I want. I'm like, you got to trust me on this. Like, trust my mom instinct and trust my 20 years of professional experience. I wouldn't bring that dog to my house. You shouldn't take it to yours. Like, that's just the gut feeling I have combined with experience. And I'm usually right. So when I feel like, oh my God, I would bring that dog home to my kid, like that's a really good, that's a really good indicator that that dog is going to flourish in a home with small kids. Because homes with kids, by the way, goes beyond your kid. Because kid homes have kid friends that come over. And I think that's the component that everybody forgets. It's not just about living nicely with your kids. It's about interacting with your guests, your grandchildren, your friend, like your kids' friends, whatever, so keep that in mind as you're hearing me talk about the dogs tonight. And again, feel free to chat to Darren in the chat or interrupt me at any point you have a question. That's what the call is for. So don't feel like you have to hold the question till the end, just ask. Okay, so I'm going to share screen and I'm going to go ahead and pull up my